Now here's the thing, when you want to go and find out what's actually going on with young people, it's far easier to come down into the workshops and find out what they're actually doing. And here I am down at Bicester, and so it made perfect sense to come and meet some of the faces of tomorrow. And I just bumped into Matt, he's part of the Heritage Skills Academy team. Now Matt, you are very fresh-faced, how old are you?
I'm 20.
You're 20. And what's brought you into the world of classic cars?
My dad's owned a classic car for a long time, and I enjoyed working on that growing up. So I thought, I love cars, why not come and work on the old stuff, because I find it far more interesting. So it's probably what got me down here, and then getting down here realising there's so much more to classic cars than just the cars themselves. The community around them's great as well.
Oh, absolutely. Now, when we see pessimists online, they talk about how young people aren't interested, how the scene is dying. You are at the coalface. What do you think? What's your thoughts?
It's good to see more and more people, especially coming here and seeing a lot of like-minded people of my age as well. Because I do find sometimes you tend to find with classic cars it's definitely a lot more of the older generation. But definitely speaking to a lot of my friends here and outside of here, is there are more and more young people getting into the classic cars that are recognising the older cars, and an old car drives by and they're able to name it now, which 5-10 years ago I'm not sure they'd have been able to do. So that is nice. It's nice to see. And
do you drive a classic yourself?
No, I don't. Not yet. But saying that, I would like to. I'm looking into buying an MG Midget soon.
Oh, are you?
So, yeah.
Oh, okay. Good choice, because there's great parts availability. They're easy to fix at home, and it's a very commonly used engine. So yeah, it's a really sensible choice, actually.
Yeah.
And then in terms of your achievements over the last 12 months, what's something that you've worked on that you're really proud of?
I recently at work did a DB4 GT, which is quite a rare car, a very valuable car.
It
so
is,
to be able to put my name to that is quite an achievement. So.
And what advice would you give if you were talking to someone who's maybe still at school and they're considering going into the classic motor trade? What would you say to them, to ideas for how they can get involved?
I'd say just anything you can, get into meets, go and see some cars. If you can, buy one. Play with it, mess about. There's plenty of things out there that you can learn from, and just get stuck in, really. Go and give it a go. So.
Brilliant. So to counter the argument, would you say it's true or false that young people just aren't interested in classic cars and we're not going to have them in 10 years' time?
I'd say that's false.
Great answer. Joe is in his final year at the Heritage Skills Academy. Joe, how long have you been here?
So I've been here about 2.5 years now. Started sort of back end of 2021 after leaving school at 18. Then yeah, came to join here and look back really.
Now, looking back into those kind of 2.5 years ago, when you decided to come here and pursue a life in classic motoring, what inspired that choice?
Well, I've always had an interest in cars. From as young as I can remember, I've always been itching to sort of start driving them. Got a classic Mini as my first car, drove that about and sort of tinkered with that a bit, and that was sort of when I loved them really. That's where I was sort of like, oh, this is what I want to do, I want to work on these for a living. Ended up stumbling across Heritage Skills Academy, and that was sort of like the light bulb moment of, I'm doing that, and yeah, and then the rest is history. Sort of signed up and got accepted on, and yeah, here we are 2.5 years later.
Brilliant. What do you think, as you work on these cars every day, what do you think the biggest challenges are for us having a thriving classic community in, say, 50 years' time?
I think the sort of lots of the legislation around it, as long as it goes in the right direction, I think we'll be quite protected. But yeah, it's just sort of externally sort of need a bit more investment into the industry. I mean, there's lots of people with classic cars, but I think there needs to be quite a lot of investment into the industry with like synthetic fuels, sustainable fuels, stuff like that, which will allow people to run these at a sensible cost, because if fuel prices suddenly shoot up, people who own a MGB or whatever it may, sort of on the cheaper end, people can't justify putting fuel in them if it's going to cost, £5 a litre or whatever. So yeah, I think as long as people start getting behind it a bit more, then yeah, I think it will go in the right direction.
I totally agree with you. And then in terms of skills, because I think we talk a lot about skills and people talk about it online and they say, oh, my generation could, you know, build a boat from nothing, or, you know, you hear all these fantastical stories. It's almost like a build-up of people saying that they walked 5 miles in the snow to school, and they often do down the younger generation. And I heard it said about mine, and I hear it said about the generation below me. We are in a position that people are less skilled than they perhaps were 50 years ago. Some of that's through necessity, some of that is through changing job roles. A lot more people are based at a desk nowadays. But the fact still remains that we do need to build up a group of people that have those skills. How do we interest more young people in coming to learn stuff like this, opposed to learning how to fix a car on finance?
I think a lot of it starts with in the education system. If people are exposed to it at a young enough age, it sparks a bit more interest. I know if I was sort of shown this sort of stuff at 10, 11, 12,
yeah,
I think I would have had that moment a lot earlier on, being like, oh, that's what I want to do. I mean, I always had an interest in cars, but the whole classic car world was sort of a bit of a mystery to me. Never really knew much about it. So yeah, I think people going to schools, doing talks about things, showing kids, this is what this industry is about. There's lots of opportunity within it. I think that will really sort of get a lot more people into it and expand the industry.
So one of those things that I pull out there that you're talking about is you talk about building that interest when people are young. So do you think that schools need to build more into the curriculum to encourage people to learn these basic skills and to spark that interest?
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be something that's hardwired into the curriculum, but for schools to get on board with getting people in, it could be young people like ourselves here in to do talk, show people what it's or or give them a bit of a taster of what it's like. I think that would really help.
No, that's good stuff. Well, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts today. It's really great to come down and meet you all.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Now we come to Robbie. Robbie, again, is someone who's coming to the end of his time at the Heritage Skills Academy. But yet again, another fresh face that I wanted to pick the brains of to see where we're going with this classic journey. What do we need? And most importantly, what do we, as the current owners, need to do to get other people interested? So first of all, the age-old question, how did you end up getting into classic motoring?
Yeah, so I was finishing my A-levels and I was sort of looking into the motor trade. That's what I wanted to do. And then I just sort of stumbled upon this apprenticeship and I thought that's the best thing I could do. I really liked sort of tinkering around with bikes, playing around with cars. But I wasn't so keen on the modern cars. So yeah, it was perfect really.
Have you got a classic car yourself?
Yeah, I've got a 1972 Fiat 500.
Oh, nice. Okay. And so have you, do you ever feel like your hobby is your work, or do you ever get home and think, oh, I've done it all day, I can't be bothered now?
I don't really get sick of cars. I enjoy it so much. Yeah, work is sort of the hobby. So weekends and weekdays, I'm doing the same thing really.
Now, you're a young man. What led you into the arms of a 1972 Fiat 500?
So it was a friend of mine, and it wasn't running, and she asked if I wanted to help get it running. She was going to sell it to an auction, and I said, well, I'll buy it and I'll get it running and I'll sell it afterwards. So
I love that. And so you ended up getting caught in the honey trap and catch it yourself?
Yeah. Well, so far, yeah.
Oh, that's great. Have you got? Are you a Fiat man, or are you an Italian car man, or are you just kind of all classics?
So all sorts of classics, really. I think it's quite a cool little car. It's got a bit of character, so I went for that. Yeah.
Now, we're both classic car owners, and I think one of the greatest things that we can all do is work together to inspire that interest from the younger generation, from casual passers-by that we see at shows. What do you think people need to do to get more young people and people of the same age interested?
Yeah, so just really come along to the shows, and if you're someone in your family or a friend has got a classic car, just get involved and just give it a go. It's amazing what you can learn from sort of online forums and again your old Haynes manuals or whatever it could be. So there's a lot of information out there.
What do you think we need to do to get more of the younger generation hooked on classic cars?
Ultimately, give them the experience in the car itself. Classic cars are quite raw to drive. They're a lot more interesting. It's a lot more involved. And I think young people really enjoy that.
So you think we need to let them loose with a set of keys?
I think so, yeah.
It's a bit of a gamble, isn't it, though? I don't let anybody really drive my Morris Minor because that is my entire life on four wheels. But that Proton, I'd chuck the keys to anybody. But
Yeah.
would you let anybody drive your Fiat 500?
It might be a difficult choice, but at least in the passenger seat.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I think that is a really great compromise, is if you don't want to let somebody take the keys, let them take the passenger seat, because it's that experience, isn't it? That first-hand experience that hooks people in.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure you've seen it as well, and you must be so frustrated doing what you do. When you see people online say the younger generation just aren't interested, do you think that's true?
No, not at all. There's so many of us that are really interested in it, and from school that was sort of hard to find, but here is a real big community of people that really love cars.
That's really great. Would you like to see something like this replicated across the UK? Because it's very special, isn't it, this?
Yeah. The more of it, the better.
Yeah, no, I would as well. And I think that this really needs to be the first of many, because there are so many great minds all under one roof, all on one postcode. And it really goes against that misconception that young people aren't interested, that the classic car industry is dying, and that there isn't the demand for it, because you come here and there are waiting lists, you can't get into scrambles. It's great to see so much attention and enthusiasm, and long may it continue.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, just more people, the better.
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
nice community. Brilliant.
Absolutely. Well, I had to come and grab Simon for two different reasons. Number one is we did an original interview. If you remember way back when, we did a bit of a Morris Minor day and the rain was really bad. It ruined a load of my filming, and Simon's bit was one of them. So I thought, right, we've got to come and retell this story, because I know we're talking about young people being interested in classic cars and skills and all the rest of it. But here's the thing. Simon is living it day to day, because you daily a Morris Minor, a man after many of our hearts, because I know plenty of you love a Morris Minor at home, and you use it quite regularly. Now, tell us where you've just come back from.
From Belgium, so home. I'm originally from Belgium, so I went home to visit my family. And that was driving it here from Bicester to Dover and then Calais, because I always take the ferry. It's quite handy. And then just from Calais all the way home to Belgium. Yeah.
And no problems?
No. Actually no problems, none whatsoever. Not that I had to stop for anything. I had to stop for fuel. That was about it. But no, it's good. It's quite good on fuel as well. I do about 38 miles to the gallon.
Oh,
so
same. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people talk about old cars, they don't do great miles per gallon. I think 38 is really good for an engine that was designed best part of 100 years ago.
Yeah.
It's decent.
Basically, yeah. And with the bigger carb as well, I've got a HF38 on it at the moment. Yeah, and a better inlet manifold, and I still get good fuel mileage from it.
Nice.
As long as I'm calm on the pedal, kind of thing.
Now, what came first? Was it the love of old cars and working in the industry, or was it the Morris Minor?
It was my dad's Model T Ford, 1915 Model T Ford. He bought that when I was 11, but before that, also always been into old cars because of him. Then through that, I started working on it together with him, maintaining it, doing basic mechanical jobs, and then through Model Ts. Well, that's a lie. So he had a Morris Minor, the exact same one I've got now.
Yeah.
He had a Morris Minor before that, and then he sold that when I was very young. He had to sell it, and I was always gutted about that. Then the Model T is what got me into the mechanical side of it. Then I always wanted a Morris Minor again, and then when I moved here and started working, that one came up for sale, and I said, I want that. It's a black one, just like my dad's, and I bought it.
It is a really good choice. And you've said that you've done 7,000 miles and you bought it in September. So that's less than a year ago. It's really decent mileage. And all you've had is what, a burst brake pipe?
Yeah, burst brake pipe one, because it wasn't connected. It was just floating, so it's constantly vibrating. So I've now replaced all of those and attached them to the axle properly. So it brake with fuel pipe and some zip ties to keep it down secure.
Now, I've got two big questions for you. Number one is, and I know that you see the same comments as me, because I know you're in the same groups as me on Facebook. We see every day, don't we, people saying young people aren't interested in classic cars. Do you think that's true, yes or no?
No, I think there's a lot of interest. The problem is, and that's the problem I found, is to do with insurance companies. They don't like it if you want a daily, an old car. And then the problem is with younger people, you can't really afford to run two cars. So that is my daily. It's the only car I've got. And I'm not on a classic car insurer because they...
Are you not?
No, they didn't really want to insure me. My first quote I ever got was $3,500. And that's what I paid for the car. So
Ouch.
I said, well, no, thank you. And then looked online, and now I'm with Admiral. They were the only people that were all right with it.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm still on nearly 900 a year. But it was the best quote I could find, being under 25 as well.
Now, for clarity, I don't think that's that bad. So my first year of being insured in a Morris Minor was 2009, and I paid £749. So if we take into account inflation, I actually don't think you've done too badly there.
No, I was lucky. So again, coming from Belgium, I was really lucky they accepted my no claims from Belgium as well, because I've been driving for 3 years already, and I messaged them about it and said, yeah, we'll accept that. So I just showed them proof of my insurance company in Belgium that had 3 years of no claims. And yeah, I think that definitely helped as well.
Now, you've been working on some really expensive stuff lately. What have you been working on?
So nowadays I work for a company called Kingsbury Racing here at Bicester Heritage, and we work on just Bentleys, WO Bentleys, so the 1920s Bentleys. So I'm in the engine shop at the moment with my colleague Matt, who's behind the camera.
Yeah.
And this is an engine we're rebuilding for a customer, but then what we mainly do at the moment is for the Bentley continuation project.
Okay.
So the brand new Bentleys, we build the engines and the running gear for that.
Really?
So that right there, just behind Matt, there's a crankcase magnesium. They're all brand new, so they're exact copies of the 1920s car, exactly how they would have done it. We haven't put anything modern in there, but it's brand new. Every nut and bolt is brand new.
And that's marvellous. So it's all built here. Again, we talk about losing British engineering, we talk about losing people in Britain doing these finer tasks. Well, it's all here, isn't it, behind this door, and you're all doing it.
Exactly. There's plenty of skills, and we've got the Heritage Skills Academy on site as well, so they get young people into it. Yeah, no, it's good. I think there's hope for the future still. Yeah.
That was my next question. By the way, how long does it take to build an engine here?
So one of those brand new ones, because they're 6 cylinders, so they're massive things. 6.5 litre straight 6, about 5 weeks if all the parts arrive on time. Because a lot of parts come from, because like the crankcase, we can't machine that here, it's way too big. So that comes from the foundry onto the people who machine it, and then they come to us, and then we will do the finishing touches to it, tap the holes and deburr it and clean it up, and then get the cranks ready. So it's about 5 weeks to build an engine from scratch.
It's a lot of work, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I suppose it lasts, and that's the thing.
Yes, so far they've all been Engine Zero, the first engine, they tested it extensively, and they've done 10,000 kilometres so far in that. And we had that part a couple of weeks ago, just for a checkup. They wanted to see how it's fared. So we had that part, we measured it, and basically no wear to speak of. So the engine's done really, really well.
Well done on that, because that's good going for your first one.
Yeah.
Now, I guess we're talking about skills here, really in-depth skills that you would have to spend a lot of time investing in. I see so many people online talk about how younger people just don't have the skills or don't want to acquire them. Do you think that's true?
That's a bit difficult. I think it definitely depends on your interest, and it depends on your background. My dad's a blacksmith, and so I've always been around like machinery and stuff, so I've been kind of rolled into it easily. But I think for a lot of people, it's kind of scary if they have never done it to get into that world. If they come from a background where they've not worked on cars, or they haven't had an old car but they want to get into it, it can be a bit daunting. But yeah, like I say, there's definitely plenty of opportunities to get into it, like through apprentice schemes and whatnot. So I don't think it's that. I don't think it's necessarily younger people giving up on it, but yeah.
How do we get more young people into it? If they don't have that first-hand experience at home like you've had, how do we get them to walk through these doors and say, I want to have a go at this, or I have an interest in doing this? Where do you think the missing link is where we're losing people?
I think a lot of the time with a lot of people, if they haven't got the mechanical skills, it just becomes the price of the cars. I can run my Morris Minor really cheap because I do everything myself on it, and I just have to buy the parts and make the time for it. But if you have to constantly outsource it and pay someone to do it, I think the price point can be daunting. But I think in that regard, it's just promoting it. People, guess if they've never driven an old car and they only hear, they break down constantly, you're not going to get into it. But I think that's why I think the Morris Minor is probably one of the easiest cars to get into. Price point wise, they're quite cheap still, everything considered, and they're so easy to learn and work on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And this is the thing, but I think we do see a lot of people scaremongering and saying you can't drive them on the motorway, you can't drive them far. And it's a load of rubbish, isn't it? Like today, I've driven 4 hours here, nearly 200 miles. You've just come back from Belgium. These old cars can do it. Now, you know what? We're going to catch up with somebody else and get their opinion on what we need to do to get more young people interested. Matt, you are a wee bit older than some of the other chaps that we've spoken to today, and you're going to be my final person I talk to. Now, I want to know, what do we need to do to get more school leavers coming in, getting excited about old cars? Do you think the fault is with classic car community not being welcoming enough? Do you think it's schools not investing enough in practical skills? Where do you think the break in the link is?
I think a lot of it comes down to clubs, I think. I used to be part of the BMW car club.
Yeah.
And you'd go to meets and you'd be the youngest by a long way.
Yeah.
And I did meet a few friends there, and we still go around, but there's only 2 or 3 of us. But I don't go to any of the meets anymore.
Do you not?
No.
It's a shame.
Because you just felt like it wasn't aimed at you. It was aimed at people who are kind of retired. And
so what do you think, we say this, okay, but what do clubs need to do? So we can kind of do down what they're doing, but what do they need to do to get more young people in?
I think Simon made a very good point that the insurance is a big one. You need to get young people driving them.
Yes.
And then whether it's you start, whatever it is, however cheap it is, and then you move on to the next classic car, and that's how you start. Yeah.
But what can clubs do to make their meets more appealing?
I think sometimes you need to vary it a little bit more. Because I'd go to the BMW show, and it's just BMWs, and
Okay.
sometimes you just need a little bit more variety, know what else is out there, and
Yeah.
because you go with the family, and although your family's into a certain type of car, you
Yeah.
might not be.
Yeah.
And it might put you off, I don't know.
Fair enough, fair enough. And I think, you know what, this is the thing, there's so many different opinions feeding in, but it's really great to meet young people and find out what they've got to say, because we all feed in as the older generation, and I count myself in that because I'm staring 40 in the face, and I just think, oh my God, I was only 21 2 minutes ago. But anyway, we are the older ones now, those of us that are above 35, and we need to stop looking inwards and saying young people are this, young people are that, young people aren't interested. And actually what we need to do is we need to start looking out and do what I've done today and start saying to them, what do we need to do? What support do you need? How can we help you? And then we need to invest just as much as we're investing into our cars into the younger generation, because it'll be that guarantees that our cars are here for another 50 years, not due diligence on parts, not due diligence on keeping on top of your tyres. It's investing in the people just as much as the cars. And I really hope you've enjoyed today's video. It's been a pleasure to come and chat to the younger generation, the faces of tomorrow, and find out what we need. And if you've got any questions, the Heritage Skills Academy are really great. You can give them a shout and they'll do what they can to support your younger people, but also to give you some advice as well. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and if you think we've given young people a fair rap here, if we've missed something off, or what your ideas and initiatives would be to get more young people interested. But until next time, take care and drive safely.